It ain't easy being a kid, especially when there are literal pot-bellied goblins coming after us! Welcome to Deep Thoughts While Gaming. I'm Chris Chappell. To be young again and running from unspeakable horrors. An experience you can have in the newly released Withering Rooms. I know what you're thinking, another Haunted Mansion horror game? Well, this one is a procedurally generated Victorian mansion, so you'll never have the safety of memorizing where all the monsters are. They could be anywhere. They could be the people closest to you. Yes, you can never quite tell the intentions of an adult. In the Withering Rooms, you play as a young witch named Nightingale. You'll have to stay alert, listening for approaching enemies and hiding when necessary, as even the starting enemies dwarf you in size. There are over 100 unique enemy encounters in the game, ranging from zombies to ghosts to, I guess, Wormface from Elden Ring? But the true monsters aren't always obvious. Of the many adults you bump into in the mansion, most of them don't actually have your best interest in mind, so avoiding them would be best. And the remaining few will lie to you, and you'll have to be careful of who to trust. After all, no one found their way here by accident. Much like in real life, being too trusting could lead to your eventual downfall, and your chances for survival drastically increase if you take your parents' advice seriously and don't talk to strangers, preferably avoiding them completely. Sometimes running may be the best thing to do when you can't hide, especially when you walk into rooms you shouldn't. But fear not, soon you'll discover that the magic was in you all along, and that for a little girl, you're actually pretty good at fighting in full body armor. This transition from being totally helpless to role-playing your last Dark Souls save happens gradually, and you'll have to be careful not to get overconfident as you start slaying your way through the mansion. Between the traps and the guards, you'll have the odds stacked against you. Ultimately, your playstyle will be based on what you enjoy. There's nothing wrong with sneaking past most of the game, or using a shotgun to blast through your new friends. But either way, you're lucky Nightingale's in the driver's seat, as most children wouldn't be as prepared as her for dealing with the horrors of the night. Fairy tales handed down to us throughout time share a warning that there are predators out there who have their eyes on children. I don't remember Grandma having such big teeth, and having a house made out of candy in this climate? Yes, sometimes the monsters are giant worm-faced things. Other times they wear a friendly mask, only to show their fangs when it's too late. It's uncomfortable to know that underage sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein was rubbing elbows with the elite of business, politics, and Hollywood. Harvey Weinstein used the lure of the glitz and glamour of the movie industry to do horrible things. Why does Tom Hanks have a hot dog clock? And basically the last 20 years worth of P. Diddy jokes are coming out as all possibly true. All this on the heels of the 2023 movie Sound of Freedom, which followed the true story of CIA agent Tim Ballard, as he saved over 100 children from being trafficked in the South American sex trade in 2013, with his not-for-profit group, Operation Underground Railroad. I wish those kids had a suit of armor and some magic spells. The movie ultimately acting as a means to inform people about how serious of a problem human sex trafficking still is today, garnering further interest online with allegations that people in the media industry were actively trying to suppress the movie, with The Atlantic in one article calling it the movie they don't want you to see. Just like in Silent Hill, when the paint starts peeling off the walls and we're transported to the nightmare. We gotta figure out what to do now that we're here, surrounded by monstrous versions of who we thought our friends were, with no idea of who to trust anymore. A feeling that you can experience for yourself in the Withering Rooms. The game does almost too good a job of highlighting why you never want to go alone to a Hollywood party. And that's by design, with Troy, the main developer, stating in an interview with DreadXP.com in relation to the story of the game, basically, the rich folks in the house have realized that this is sort of a great playground. The rules don't matter. You can do anything you want. Yeah, that sounds a lot like a certain island with a temple I've heard about. Dr. Michelle Borba, in her book, The Big Book of Parenting Solutions, 101 Answers to Everyday Challenges and Wildest Worries, writes, Children need to be educated about personal safety from a very early age, teaching them to recognize and trust their instincts, establish boundaries, and assert themselves in uncomfortable situations. Her view is that it's important for the child to ultimately have a degree of autonomy in their own protection, in terms of awareness and confidence, if not physically. A thought that for some may seem a little intimidating, because Timmy does want that candy bar. And that man does look a little bit like Santa Claus. So can Timmy really be in charge of his own safety? Maybe if he had a full set of armor or some magic spells. The reality is that there may be times when you won't be there. And those are the times you want your child to be trained for. Like finding themselves running through a creepy old mansion and there's Hollywood elites behind every door looking to make you famous. Take for example the case of Joe Rogan and his personal experience dealing with a predator as a child. In his story, which he has recounted on the JRE podcast, in an episode with Joey Diaz, he explains how when he was young he would go fishing in the woods, until one day he was met at his fishing spot by an older man who would try to recruit Joe into the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. As a child, of course, this was a jarring memory for Joe, and he expresses during the podcast that he was grateful to have a knife on him at the time, and know how to use it. Luckily, he didn't have to. And luckily, most kids tend not to fish in the woods by themselves. But the value of Joe being able to get himself out of that situation alone cannot be understated. And it's certainly the sort of thing that supports Dr. Borba's view that children should be prepared to some degree to manage danger. And as the fairy tales warn us, the world isn't safe enough for us to leave this sort of education up to the schools. And if your child ever finds themselves lost in a billionaire's mansion, they better know not to drink the Kool-Aid. Thank you for watching Deep Thoughts While Gaming. And remember, Epstein didn't kill himself. Making this show isn't cheap. And without the support of billionaires and Hollywood elites, I rely on you to hit that join button to become a channel member where you get access to exclusive emojis, a Discord server, live streams, episodes, and this totally normal Kool-Aid I prepared just for you. And click here to check out this video about how the elites of The Sims engage in human sacrifice